Diddy's ex wrapped up her testimony today after 4 grueling days on the stand.
She might have a lawsuit too.
Singer Dawn Richard testifies that Sean Diddy Combs hit Cassie Ventura with a skillet full of eggs.
You got to go back to the drugs and the alcohol, man. The drugs and the alcohol, man. And those things will make you do strange things.
What does it take to silence a courtroom? Dawn Richard's testimony about Cassie's alleged abuse at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs did exactly that. A bombshell moment in an already volatile trial. Her revelations pulled back the curtain on a reality more disturbing than most could have imagined.
Diddy's ex wrapped up her testimony today after 4 grueling days on the stand. The defense hit her hard during cross-examination, asking her about a stint in rehab for PTSD, a rape allegation, and asking her to read explicit text messages from over the past 15 years.
Richard accused Combs of sexual harassment, gender discrimination, and a hostile work environment by being exposed to sex trafficking and sex acts. She also alleged that she was a victim of false imprisonment. In her suit, Richard stated she was seeking compensatory and punitive damages, as well as other costs for post-traumatic stress, anxiety, and emotional suffering, and financial losses she suffered as a result of Combs' alleged behavior. Combs has denied her allegations. His lawyer told E! News in September, Mr. Combs is shocked and disappointed by this lawsuit. Richard's testimony in Combs' ongoing trial comes 8 months after she accused the rapper in a lawsuit of subjecting her to years of inhumane working conditions, which included groping, assault, and false imprisonment. The lawsuit, filed in September, obtained by E! News, stated, Mr. Combs frequently held meetings with Ms. Richard wearing only his underwear, despite Ms. Richard's protests and repeated requests for him to put on clothing. In her filing, the 41-year-old also alleged that Combs ordered her to strip down to her underwear, made demeaning remarks about her body, and entered her dressing room unannounced while she was unclothed, and touched her without her permission under the guise of showing the stylist what to do.
Dawn Richard's time on the stand was nothing short of seismic. As a former Danity Kane member, one of the groups crafted under Diddy's watch, Dawn wasn't just a former employee, she was an insider. Her proximity to both Diddy and Cassie gave her testimony unmatched weight during the first week of proceedings. People expected vague references or secondhand insights. What they got was a visceral account of alleged abuse that stunned even the most seasoned courtroom observers. Her connection to Cassie wasn't merely professional, it was personal. She worked closely with both Cassie and Diddy, witnessing the daily mechanics of their relationship. While the public saw a glamorous couple, Dawn described something else entirely, a pattern of emotional manipulation and intimidation that allegedly left Cassie isolated and afraid. The energy in the courtroom shifted the moment Dawn began speaking. She detailed Diddy's outbursts and filtered rage that reportedly left his team walking on eggshells, with Cassie often on the receiving end. These weren't rumors, she insisted. She had seen it herself. One incident stood out. Diddy allegedly screamed at Cassie so aggressively that her physical reaction betrayed the emotional trauma. In real time, his control, Dawn claimed, wasn't just about yelling, it was psychological warfare, designed to trap Cassie in a constant state of fear. Her delivery only intensified the impact. With a voice laced with long-held pain and anger, she seemed to finally be releasing a truth that had haunted her. Legal experts in the room noted that first-hand accounts like these don't just support a case, they transform it. For the jury, it made the abstract painfully real. Diddy's response was telling. He appeared visibly uncomfortable, tense, whispering to his lawyers, fidgeting in his seat. He didn't interrupt, but he didn't have to. His reaction said enough. But it was one sentence that truly shattered the room. I believe Cassie spent most of her time just trying to survive. 5 words that encapsulated years of alleged abuse. 5 words that may ultimately reshape the case. Dawn's testimony didn't just strengthen Cassie's claims, it reframed the entire narrative. The defense now faces a harrowing challenge, dismantling a first-hand account that may already have changed how the jury views Diddy. And with more witnesses lined up, many with similarly close ties to the couple, the stage is set for even more revelations.
If she witnessed, and she's saying that she witnessed a gangbang, which actually we know it as called a train. And she worked on the album, The Train to Paris. And like I heard one of the YouTube, it could be Tistel, say that we didn't know what the train to Paris meant. But now we know that the train to Paris was a train in Scotland. It wasn't a train in Paris, it was a train in Scotland. Every time I have a witness doing something is when 2 guys and 2 girls will go in the room. And that was just regular. And however they did it, whatever they did, that was their business. But he gotten bold enough Whereas that he would do that in front of Dawn and other people at a poolside in Scotland. You sure it was Scotland, man?
Danity Kane alum Don Richard, who began working with Sean Diddy Combs while competing on his show Making the Band in 2004, took the stand after Cassie wrapped her testimony May 16th. Richard joined Combs' group Diddy Dirty Money after Danity Kane disbanded. While on the stand, she told jurors that she saw Combs hit Ventura with a skillet full of eggs at his Los Angeles home in 2009. Richard testified per NBC News. He came downstairs asking where his phone was, and he threw her to the ground. He attempted to kick her. She fell to the ground and went into the fetal position, literally trying to hide her head. In addition to striking Ventura with the skillet, Richard said Combs put his arm around the singer's neck and took her upstairs before she heard glass breaking. Richard added, "I was scared for her. I was scared to do."
Just as the courtroom was recovering from Don Richard's testimony, another jarring piece of evidence sent shockwaves through the trial: an audio recording of Cassie, her voice trembling with rage and desperation, reportedly threatening a close Diddy associate. The man allegedly possessed footage of a violent altercation between Cassie and Diddy. Footage Cassie was determined to keep from being weaponized. The recording was a turning point. It wasn't polished or premeditated. It was raw snapshot of a woman emotionally frayed and seemingly pushed to her breaking point. Legal observers described her voice as that of someone cornered after years of fear and manipulation. Her anger wasn't theatrical, it was survival. On the tape, Cassie pleads and threatens in equal measure, demanding answers from someone within Diddy's tight inner circle. The implications were huge. This wasn't just about a volatile relationship, it was about a toxic power structure that ensnared more than just the couple. The tape captured a woman fighting not just for control, but for safety. Why would Cassie go to such extremes? Experts noted this is common in emotionally abusive relationships. People trapped in these dynamics often act in ways that outsiders don't understand, ways born out of emotional exhaustion, not malice. The tape didn't just show instability. It showed the long-term psychological toll of trying to survive in an allegedly coercive environment. For the jury, the recording layered new complexity onto the already intense proceedings. It wasn't definitive proof of guilt, but it further humanized Cassie's claims and added credibility to Don Richard's account. Predictably, Diddy's legal team is expected to spin the recording in their favor. The strategy: cast Cassie as emotionally unstable and therefore unreliable. Sources say they'll soon examine her mental health history and personal life to try to dismantle her testimony piece by piece. But the defense has a problem. The tape isn't just about Cassie's anger, it's about everything that came before it. For years, she was seen as the background figure in Diddy's larger-than-life world. Now, the recording reveals a woman exhausted from hiding in plain sight. What happens next could reshape the trial. Will more recordings surface? Will other insiders come forward? What's clear is that the courtroom is no longer just debating legalities. It's navigating a tangled, high-stakes narrative about control, power, and emotional survival. And the next revelation might be the one that tips the balance for good. Asterisk.
We're all going to take a disgusting trip to his seedy, awful world. You know, the man has no class. He has no kindness in his dark, dark heart. And he's depraved. That's my opinion. This is a depraved, disgusting individual.
The facts are the facts, the texts are the texts, and I think that the evidence will be clear.
That Ventura had a choice and that she chose to participate in those sexual encounters.
Where she is entertaining other people in the bedroom. He enjoyed having the freak-offs.
She's being asked specifically about the drug use.
She is clearly excited about
the defense's effort to undermine Cassie by spotlighting her past rehab stints, PTSD, and a prior rape allegation was intended to cast her as unstable and unreliable. But this strategy may have backfired. Rather than discrediting her, it drew attention to the psychological and emotional damage Cassie has endured, inadvertently reinforcing her claims of long-term manipulation by Diddy. Legal analysts noted that this line of attack, common in cases involving abuse, often backfires when it highlights patterns of vulnerability that an abuser could exploit. Especially damaging were private messages between Cassie and Diddy, like one where she wrote, "I'm lost without you." The defense framed them as signs of mutual affection and consent. But experts noted such messages are typical of trauma bonding, where victims internalize dependence on their abuser. In trying to prove Cassie was too emotionally fragile to testify accurately, the defense instead painted a portrait of a woman shaped by years of psychological entrapment. Her mental health struggles, rather than weakening her case, were reframed as symptoms of enduring an emotionally volatile relationship. In focusing on Cassie's instability, the defense may have given the jury an even clearer picture of how power dynamics played out in their relationship. Far from creating doubt, their approach deepened the narrative of control. This strategic miscalculation now has observers questioning whether the defense inadvertently validated the very abuse they were trying to dismiss. And with more witnesses preparing to testify, including former members of Diddy's inner circle, the defense's attempt to refocus the narrative could end up doing lasting damage to their case. Aubrey O'Day is poised to become the next major figure in a trial already filled with explosive revelations. As a former Danity Kane member, her testimony could shed new light on Diddy's alleged patterns of control, both personal and professional. Her past criticisms of Diddy's management style suggest she may corroborate the abuse. Cassie and Richard described potentially transforming this case from a single accusation into a broader indictment of his behavior across years and relationships. Don's earlier testimony already shifted perceptions, describing scenes of emotional turmoil and manipulation that left Cassie visibly shaken. Now, Aubrey could strengthen that narrative, especially if she connects Diddy's alleged need for control in his romantic relationships with the way he handled his artist. Legal experts say that when multiple accounts echo one another, especially from people with different vantage points, it builds a narrative that's harder to discredit. Former employees are also expected to testify, and their role could be pivotal. If they speak to Diddy's private behavior, or even hint at a culture of complicity or fear, their words could provide missing context that links Cassie's personal allegations to a broader pattern of professional intimidation. These testimonies will test the defense's strategy, which hinges on casting doubt through character attacks and selective interpretations of events. Meanwhile, Diddy's courtroom demeanor has become a story of its own. Initially composed, he's begun to show visible cracks in posture, whispered exchanges with lawyers, and flashes of agitation during damaging testimony. According to observers, his frustration became especially apparent following Richard's statements, with his reaction catching even more attention than the testimony itself. The loss of his tightly managed image could prove just as damning as any piece of evidence. What's unfolding is more than just a trial, it's a public reckoning. The defense's tactics to diminish Cassie's credibility are meeting growing resistance as new voices step forward, with Aubrey O'Day and others preparing to testify. The case continues to grow beyond a single claim into a potential exposure of how power and abuse intersect behind the scenes of celebrity culture. The next few weeks could reshape not only the trajectory of the trial, but Diddy's entire legacy.